All right, what is up? Okay, so today we're going to do something quick, hopefully, maybe like 30-40 minutes, but we're going to continue drawing profile images. So last time we drew this beautiful profile and we drew a 3/4 and a head on. I want to double down and I want to draw another profile picture, but I want it to be of a man this time instead of a lady. So basically what happens is the drawing is going to stay fundamentally the same, but we're going to see some slight differences in the nose and skull shape. Just barely. Like the forehead is going to be a little bit different, the nose is going to be a little bit different, but other than that, pretty much everything stays the same. So, what I've been learning with drawing profile pictures, or from the profile angle, that just means the side of the head instead of head on, is if we start with a box, we can get proportions right really easily, and very quickly too, which is awesome. So basically, instead of starting with that circle debacle and draw all these circles, draw all these lines, all of this sort of BS, we're going to start with a box, which is crazy work, and we're going to mark out a bunch of our guiding lines within this box, and then that lets us draw the head all the better. So, with this box, we divide it in half top down and divide it in half across. And then what we're going to do in this first box, we are going to divide this line by fourths. So just draw 3 hash marks there. We're going to divide this one by fourths. So 3 hash marks there. And then we're even going to divide this back one in between these back 2 boxes by fourths as well. And what this does is it gives us a setup for where we want the ear to be. It gives us all the setup for where we want the nose to be, where the mouth should be, where the forehead should go, and where the eye should go. So all of these lines are going to end up helping us and giving us basically footholds that we need to finish this drawing. So what we're going to do is from this first box that we drew, we're going to start at this lower hash mark, right? And we are just going to draw a quarter of a circle from this hash mark up to that midpoint of that box. That's all we have to do, is just draw a half circle in this box, or a quarter circle in this box, right? And that's going to be like the top of our skull and forehead. And that's all we're doing in that box for now. Then, as we move over, we're going to take this box and do the same thing, but instead of going to this hash mark on this side, we're going to try and land as close as possible to this back hash mark. So I'm going to start and add just a very light line up to that top, and as I get more comfortable, I can make that darker and darker. But essentially what that does is it cues us up to have a proportional front of the head and back of the head. So now there's no like drawing a really strange wide and long skull. It's just a quick hit and we have pretty much exactly what we need. Now from here, I'm going to take this middle hash mark, I'm going to just drag it over to this line, and that's going to give us about the base of the skull. So you can see huge quarter circle here, a little bit smaller here, and then just ever so slightly smaller on this side. And again, all we're doing is keeping all of these lines super light because these are just going to be our building blocks for the head and face that we are drawing. Like none of this is going to stick around, it's not permanent. We are just ripping through and setting up basically like the foundations of a house, but in drawing form. And it's going to help us a lot, I promise. Now, from all of this, we can take this base of the skull, right? And we're going to swoop it down into this bottom hash mark in this bottom box. And what that is going to give us is the framework for our jawline and our chin, which, I don't know about you guys, but I suck at drawing jawlines and chins. So we're just going to basically make a Nike swoosh, And you can draw as many lines, as many guiding lines as you want to, just keep it light and keep it fresh, right? Because, again, these are all just foundational lines. None of these are actually going to be our finished product. And already, like just from drawing a bunch of random, like very light lines, you can see that's already a pretty proportional head, which is awesome. Starting from scratch, like if I was drawing without any of these guides, basically all of the errors I would make are sizing and like length of maybe from top to jaw or from forehead to back of head. But with the box method, you pretty much mitigate all of that and you get to all of the good stuff quickly. So now from this, remember that very first hash mark we started drawing from. This is about going to be, oh, what's up, Quartz? Takes off jacket. That's badass. I'm glad you're here. Did you stream today? I'm doing the same drawing tutorial I did yesterday, but this time I'm doing a guy head instead of a lady head. And I think it's going to turn out pretty well. So from this hash mark that we started from, this is going to be our initial nose line. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a diagonal line here, straight down, and that's, again, just going to be the initial line. That is not what the nose is going to look like. We're just setting up foundations for everything. Off day? Nice. Badass. How is it? How is having off? So with this nose, it sort of clues us in where we want our eyebrow as well, because as we're drawing this bridge of the nose, and honestly, I might even, just because I know how this drawing is going, I'm going to move it down just a little bit from that hash mark, just to make things flow a little bit easier. So again, about a 45-degree angle nose. We're going to change that as we start adding detail, but this is how we're going to start with it. From this nose, we know where our eyebrow is going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mimic this angle, but in the opposite direction. And obviously that's going to probably get shallower as we're actually getting into the drawing. As you can see here, that 45-degree angle is right there, and then our eyebrow started right there. Depending on who you're drawing or what you're drawing, this line is subject to change in, whatever radius this is. I bought 2 packs of Japanese Pokemon cards and got my favorite as a holo. Oh, shit. What's your favorite? And also, did you check the price? Like, I feel like the second you pull a sweet card like that, the best thing to... Yeah, I knew it. What is it? PSA 10? What do we got? Did you pull a $1,000 card? But when you have this nose... Alakazam? Ooh! That's sweet. I just saw the streamer Ludwig pulled an Alakazam, and it was like $800. And I don't even think it was a PSA 10. Alakazam is one of my favorites too. I always had him, Tyranitar, basically like all the pseudo legendaries. PSA 10 version's $20. Damn! But still, sick for the collection. According to what I saw, yeah, I bet. But hey, if people start catching on to that card, it could shoot up in price. So now that we have the nose angle and that forehead angle, we can slowly move forward with all of our other hash marks that I laid out in the very beginning. So with this, we know just based on looking at people and seeing drawings that the eye sits right about the bridge of the nose. You can even see this if you look in the mirror. Your eyes are always where that nose indent happens. And that's because the skull has a brow bone, and then it has an indent, and then it has the start of the nose bone, right? So from this, it gives us a perfect line to draw the eye. So what I'm going to do is from here, maybe about a quarter of the way in, I'm just going to draw a pizza shape right where I think the eye is going to be. Again, keep this as light as possible, because if it looks off, we can change it now, but if we start inking, we can't change it. So I'm just going to lay in a little bit of a pizza slice for the eye. And when you're drawing an eye, I drew it up here, but I'll draw it again. When you're drawing an eye from the front view, you have this little almond shape, like the classic eye, right? And then you have the eyelid and everything, and then maybe you have an eyebrow up here. But when you're drawing from the side, you're only going to get this view of the eye, right? Like you're not going to see everything. So if we're drawing a ball from the quarter or from the side, you're only going to see this little bit. And if you turn that sideways, that shape ends up being that pizza slice with the pupil right here, right? Well, boys, the plan is simple. But, so that's why we always draw this pizza shape for profile eyes. And the fun trick about drawing the pizza shape for an eye is you can bring this same exact shape down to this middle hash mark in this secondary box, right? And we can draw the same shape, and this will be the lips of our drawing. Basically the same size, again subject to change. Keep these lines light because as we get into final detail, these lips are probably going to change. They might move down or up depending on our drawing. They might move back a little bit. They might be a little bit wider, a little bit shallower, all of those good things. So now we have a pretty solid eye, a pretty solid mouth. I might even, before we move forward, it looks a little bit high just in accordance to the eye, so I'm going to drop it down just a little bit from that hash mark, but we're still keeping that pizza shape. So we have an eyebrow bone set up, a nose set up, mouth set up, eye set up. Now we feel pretty confident with all of this, so I'm going to start stylizing this eye. So I'm going to keep this line a little bit light, and where you see with this lady nose, it's pretty smooth. Usually men's noses are a little bit sharper, a little bit more like bird beaks. So we're going to keep that pretty sharp, almost a 90-degree in. We're going to have it a little bit bigger than the lady nose. And we're just going to take a step back from that and see if that looks about right. Lead and Cutie are a couple goals. They are. Dude, they're cool. And still streaming and still at the top of the game. Like, Cutie's still running the streamer awards. Lud is still, like, everybody knows Lud. They respect him, and like that whole, I don't know, they've created something really cool. And so now that we have this nose, we can just draw a little swoop down very lightly to the lips, and that'll be that sort of top area where you have that little eye drop shape on the lips, right? Like on both of these, we just drew this area right here. So we have a pretty solid nose, pretty solid lips, pretty solid eye, chin, jaw, everything. It's great. What I'm going to do now is take from these lips, I'm going to draw a slight angle line down to the chin, and then I'm going to bring that chin out just a little bit from where it was. And slowly but surely, we're getting to the point of a solid jaw in accordance to the nose, mouth, and eye. Now, if you remember, we put in these hash marks for, I followed your IG. Oh, sick, I'll follow you back. That's badass, thank you. I also have TikTok, but my IG is more fun, I think. If you remember these hash marks that we put in this furthest square, it gives us the perfect spot for the ear. So we can draw a little oval in this top section and then bring it down into this bottom section. And for now, all we're going to do is draw basically an egg shape, and that's going to dictate sort of everything else. Depending on how we want this ear to look, it might be a little bit bigger, it might have more of a curve over here, but again, we're just focusing on simple shapes first, and then we can do detail and stuff later. So, oh, thanks for the follow. Now, oh yeah, that's looking good. As you can see, we have all of the frameworks and all of the sort of starting points for what is going to make a solid face or a good face. This is a great time to take a step back from your drawing. Once you have all of this structure set up and all of these sort of frameworks and building blocks and everything, it's always good to just like actually lean back away from your drawing and take a look at it. See if anything strikes you as odd or if anything feels wrong. And right off the bat, I'm feeling a little bit like the back of the head is a little bit too long. So before we go any further, I'm just going to add an extra line here where I think that it makes more sense to have the back of the head. And that feels a little bit better. So now whenever we get to the final detail area, I know to probably follow this line instead of this line. And we can just keep cooking. We can start cruising. So I have basically all of the main details that I want in this drawing. Let's move to the outline. Oh, what's up, Crow? We're doing another profile picture, profile drawing, but this time we're doing a man's head. So what we're going to do is from this forehead, this is a little bit too sharp for me, but it's a good indicator, so I'm going to split the difference. And I'm going to draw that brow line up, and then I'm going to follow the forehead up as well, and then I'm going to connect it into our head shape. And again, I'm still keeping all of my pencil lines very light. I'm just sort of starting to finalize these details. For the lips, I'm going to add in that middle line, in the exact middle of that lip section that I drew, I'm going to add a little bit of angularity to the front to show that the lips are sticking away from the head. So it's kind of like a heart shape on its side. And then that bottom lip is going to curve into that chin, and then that chin is going to follow its swoop into ultimately the ear. But as you can see, as we're moving along and slowly darkening all of these little outlines, we're getting a pretty solid head shape. And we really haven't had to work really hard at it at all. And that's the power of focusing on all of these really simple shapes first, is it turns your drawing basically into just an outline game. Cool. Thanks, Crow. Now, taking another step back, that chin might be a little bit too big. And that's fine, because since we've kept all of our lines pretty light to this point, I can go in, I can erase that, and let's make that chin just a little bit shallower and connect it back up. And again, this drawing is mostly just cartoony. We're just keeping this illustrative. We're not going hyper realistic. We're not doing anything like that. So it's okay to have some of these features a little bit different than what you would see on like maybe a hyper realistic drawing. And now we can start moving in to all of the inside details. Now that this outline feels pretty solid, we can, just for future reference and just so we understand what things are looking like, I'm going to draw in an indication for the neck, just so we're a little bit more grounded in this drawing. And we are going to split this eye that I drew in the very beginning right in half. And what this does is not only it sets us up for symmetry in this eye, but it also shows us where the eyelid is going to be and where the actual eye is going to be, which is sweet. Something everyone always forgets is that the eyelid takes up just as much space, and it's 3D. Like the eyelid sticks away from the eye just barely. So having this sort of extra, oh, what's up, Bo? Having this sort of extra depth and like dynamic line here, it just sets us up for success way better than just kind of going in completely raw. So for this eye, I'm going to add in just one eyelash. I'm going to darken up this line a little bit and draw in just a little bit of a darker line for this eyelid. Now, we basically just have to throw in a little circle for the pupil, keeping everything still very, very light, and then a little line for the bottom of the eyelid. Now, if you look at this one, I added eyelashes, and that's just because women drawings usually have, dang, looks great, homie, thank you very much. Women's heads have lashes that usually stick away from the eye a lot more than men's drawings. Obviously, you can have guys that have really long lashes, but for the sake of this drawing, we're going to keep his eyelashes pretty simple. So, we have this eye. We have one little eyelash. That's perfectly fine. We have the eyelid taken care of, and now we're just going to move into making sure this eyebrow fits and looks proportional to the eye. We're also going to keep it a little bit boxier than the woman drawing. And basically, like all the differences between drawing men and women or whoever, or all of the differences are extremely slight. Like larger nose, maybe a larger forehead, bushier eyebrows usually, eyelashes, different sort of shapes of eyes, and different lips. But basically everything else is the same constantly. So with that, we'll move into the ear. And now this is about the time where we want to throw in a little bit of detail. So I'm going to add a little bit of extra shape to this ear, making it look kind of like a kidney bean. We can throw in just some initial details. We don't need anything crazy. Those two lines, a little C and an even smaller C, are perfectly great. And now let's move on to the lips. The lips are a very interesting thing to draw, like always. Basically, lips are just shadow and value. So that same shape that we have, I'm just going to color in that triangle, that sort of heart shape that I drew initially. And then we're going to split it in the middle. I might even shorten it up just a little bit. And then from here, all it is a little bit of extra shadow on the bottoms of both lips. And that's pretty much it. That's all lips are. I had a lot of trouble for a long time drawing lips, and then a good friend of mine said, oh, it's easy, you just shade them. You don't actually draw them. And that works. All I did was color in a little bit on both top and bottom, and the lips look a lot better than if you were trying to do, where is Magnus? I know, Crow. He's been MIA. I haven't seen him since like 3 streams ago. But yeah, the lips, all you have to do is add a little bit of value, a little bit of shading, and that's it. Like, you don't need to go overboard with any sort of outline or anything. You just rip it like that and leave it. Now, the one thing that looks a little bit strange on this is there's no nostril. There's no nothing on here. So to fix that, we're basically going to go from a little bit in front of the eye and about where the mouth ends. Just draw a straight line down, and that's about where our nostril is going to land. So when we're illustrating, less lines are better, which is a crazy thing to say, but it's very, very true. So to draw this nose, like I did on this one, we just want some idea of a nostril. So I'm just going to draw like a tear shape there, and then a little housing for that nostril, so a little C around it. And that's all you need for the nose. And already it looks way better than what it was just 2 seconds ago. And of course, all of these details are subject to change. We're just laying these in so we can get a pretty solid face right off the bat. And now, let's go through our checklist. Head shape looks pretty solid. Eyes seems perfectly fine in the spot that it is. The nose, very pointy, very large, that's fine. The lips look fine. The chin is a little bit weird and cartoony, but you know what? We're learning. We're just drawing a profile. So now, I don't know why, but the chin on that sketch makes it look like handsome Squidward. Oh no. Okay, well, never mind. The chin is not fine, everybody. Crow. Crow pointed out a very good point. It looks a little bit like Handsome Squidward. So what we're going to do is we're going to shallow it out just a little bit, and probably even taking it in from the bottom so it's a little less large. And we're just going to connect that up to the chin line, finalize that drawing, and then we can erase that initial line, and look at that. Way better, way less Handsome Squidward. I shouldn't have told you that. No, you should have. You just made the drawing a little bit better. And then we can just finalize or add in that neckline back. But see how easy that was? Since we've kept all these lines so light and so easy, that if we see something that needs fixing, it's like 2 seconds and it's good, and you can't even hardly see that first initial line. So, back to the checklist. The ear seems proportional and fine. The jawline fits fairly well, now thanks to Crow. That chin isn't comically large. The lips are fine. The nose, the nose might be a little bit too big, but I think we can probably fix it once we start getting into the pen. The eye looks perfectly fine, shape-wise, proportion-wise, everything. I think we move on to adding some hair. So, men's hair is always incredibly difficult to draw. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a little bit of sideburn, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to keep all of these all of the initial hair drawings very, very simple. Like, I'm talking boxes, and then we can sort of refine and make it smoother. Well, now that you mention it, the ears are a little too small and the bottom lip is bigger than the top one. Alright, Crow. Now you're stretching. The ear is fine. For him, he likes this size of ear, but I am going to change that. And the lips, newsflash, buddy, the bottom lip is always bigger than the top lip. That's just how humans work. So you're wrong. But I will make this ear a little bit bigger. I do agree with you on that. So we're going to throw in, we're just going to erase what we had, because Crow opened his big fat mouth. And then we're going to redraw that top ridge and that little, I don't even know what to call that, little piece of cartilage. Who cares? Who gives a shit? Alright. That ear looks better, right? Lies? Yeah, right, Crow. You need an attitude adjustment. We're going to add in a sideburn, just a rectangle for now. This hair is going to come up into this ridge, and then it's going to jump up a little bit to where his hairline is. And again, we're just keeping things extremely simple, just straight lines everywhere, and then we can add volume, we can add all of those fun things a little bit later. But this hair is going to come back around the ear, down a little bit to the base of the neck, and we have essentially created Lego hair, which is great. And you might be thinking that's strange, and it looks weird, and it looks cartoony, and everything like that, but that's the whole point, because we are just blocking out about where we think this hair should be. We're going to keep it a little bit light. It can come in pretty close to the top of his head. We're just keeping all of our options open with the hair. Because a lot of times when you're drawing, and I'm just going to start erasing the that hard top of the headline that we had earlier, the worst part about drawing hair is sometimes if you draw it too quickly and too hard, it can end up ruining your whole face drawing. Sorry for getting under your skin. I'm just having fun. Oh, you're not under my skin at all. I'm just playing with you. Hair can ruin a drawing quick. So that's why I'm taking such a slow time with this. And we can just throw in a little bit of volume there, keeping things just very light. Sort of honestly keeping a little bit of that Lego feeling, because if you remember from last time, really the goal of these drawings are to get the face nailed down. Like, I don't really care about drawing this hair super well. I really just want a pretty solid face, and that's all I need. So we're going to give him a little bit of a just barely receding hairline, just because we want to. So we'll throw in a little bit of that action. Swoop down into the sideburn, and then basically we can just add a little bit of brush back volume, a little bit of texture. Maybe it's just slightly wavy back here. We're going to erase this little eye diagram that I drew earlier because it's messing up the flow. But again, keeping everything super simple, so then when we are finishing or finalizing or doing anything purposeful, we don't have to worry about this sort of nonsense detail. So I'm just throwing in a bunch of hash marks. Just a bunch of volume, just a bunch of texture, nothing crazy, and we can fix it later. But for now, perfectly fine hair. Like, nothing crazy about that. 1 second. Now that we have sort of the hair shape, the head shape, the neck shape, everything, we can basically move to finishing this drawing. So I'm going to take away a little bit of that forehead and keep it a little bit straighter. Straight line down into that brow bone, then into that nose. The lips are fine. You can add a little bit of hair there. Strengthen up this hairline with our pencil, and basically that's it. We've finished all of the pencil work we need with this drawing. And now all we have to do, take a step back, see if anything is, wrong or proportional or, out of proportion or out of perspective. And I think for the sake of this drawing, we're ripping. I think we'd go through and start inking. And now inking, basically, the same thing that we've done with our pencil and everything, all of the multiple lines, all of the foundation work, all of these things that we've been adding. Now with the ink, we just get to choose our favorite version of each of those lines. So what we're going to do is just follow all of the darkest and best lines that we drew from this entire drawing. And as you'll see, the drawing really starts to pop and figure itself out because we're choosing to define and solidify some of the most important lines. Whereas sometimes with a ton of pencil, it can feel messy, it can feel like the drawing is all over the place, it's blurry, it's out of focus, all of these things. But what the ink does is it really solidifies and finalizes all of the details and all of the things that we spent so long on. So, same thing with the lips. I'm just going to add a bunch of detail. It's fine if it looks a little bit scratchy. Again, our goal is to draw a face, not a perfect lip. We'll draw this eyelid. We'll draw this bottom one. Keep that pupil solid. And then just a little indication that that top eyelid is there. And now we can keep that bushy eyebrow. Goes down the side of the head. And basically, we've finished. The face is solid. We're going to keep all of these hairlines a little bit loose. This ear, we can choose just our favorite lines from there. Maybe add in a little bit extra. Give him a little rat tail. Maybe his hair is a little bit crunchy, a little bit curly. And basically, that's it. That's the whole profile picture of a guy. And then you can throw in a little bit of muscle to show that neck. But that's all. Completely unrelated question, is that a multi-use knife? Yes, I didn't even know that was in frame. It's my little Swiss Army. It's great. I use it for absolutely everything. And with that, Crow, I hate to say it, we've been live for 35. I finished this drawing. I'm fine ending. Also, you can throw in a little bit of laugh line. You can throw in a little bit of crease everywhere. And what this does is just adds a little bit of age to your drawing and a little bit of character. Bingo. Done. Daisy Doodles, your art looks so good. Keep doing it. You're amazing at it. Thank you so much. Do you draw as well, Daisy? I was just about to end, but if you're new here, we can hang out for a second. I do have places to be, though. We've got... Wow, we have 1,000 likes on TikTok. Yes. Oh, cool. What kind of art do you draw? Or paint, or make, or whatever? Swiss knife review? We could do that. Daisy Doodles real. Daisy meet Crow. Crow meet Daisy. Anime? Oh, sick. I have a fun anime drawing for you, Daisy. We did this the other day. A bunch of Studio Ghibli. Or Ghibli. Whatever you want to say, I say it. But they're some of my favorite movies of all time. So we drew a couple of them. I love it. Thank you very much. What kind of it? Are you asking what kind of anime? This guy's almost anime. He's like, I guess any of these could be, actually no, they couldn't. None of them could be anime. But close. Okay, I hate to cut everybody off, but I've got to get out of here, man. These drawings killed me. Yeah, what kind of anime? I wish, Daisy, I wish you came in sooner, but I've got to go. I've got errands to run, people to pick up. Serious crime. I gotta go, but keep drawing, it's amazing. Thank you very much, Daisy. Alright, Crow, hate to do it to you, but I'm out of here. See ya.